Dear class 6, we are in chapter number 2 of chemistry, that is elements, compounds and mixture. And today in this session we'll do the methods of separating mixture. Okay, so before directly going into these methods, let me tell you once again the definition of mixture. Okay, so mixture is an impure substance made up of different components mixed up randomly in different quantities. Okay, that is mixture. Okay, and this mixture, as I've told you, is composed of different components of different properties, because different components in the mixture have different properties. So these different properties of the different components in a mixture are very much useful in separating them from the mixture. Okay, so those methods are like this. Number one, hand picking. Number one, we have hand picking. So here in hand picking, we simply use our hands to pick up all those unwanted or undesirable substances from the mixture. Okay, for example, separating the small pieces of stones from wheat, okay, rice, pulses, like that. You must have seen that at home also, people separating unwanted substances from wheat, rice, pulses before they cook it. So that is hand picking, which is very simple. Second one we have is winnowing. Winnowing. Okay, so winnowing is a method usually used by farmers there in the field. Okay, so in the field, okay, when the wheat grain and the husk to be separated, okay, when the wheat grains and the husk, which is also called chaff, has to be separated. So that time what they do is that they allow the mixer to fall from height like this, as you see here in the diagram also. This is winnowing. Okay, they allow this mixture to fall from height like this. So when they are fallen, that time the husk, okay, being lighter, will be carried away by the wind little away. Okay, and the wheat grains being heavier, fall down there itself, down there. Okay, so that these two things are separated, husk and the wheat grains. Okay, so this method is called winnowing, which is used by the farmers. Then third one we have sieving. Third one we have sieving. Okay, so this sieving actually is used if the components of the mixer are of different sizes. Okay, because the components which are there in the mixer may be of different sizes. So if the sizes are different, so this sieving method is used. For example, sieving of flour. Sieving of flour. Before making chapatis, we sieve the flour first, so that the fine flour, okay, only the one which we can use for making chapatis is used. Other unwanted will remain there in the net itself or there in the sieve itself. So there we use the method called sieving. And also sieving of sand. Sand, we find sand particles, we find of different sizes. Okay, so accordingly the sieve is used. So when such different sized particles of the sand are allowed to to pass through the sieve, the fine ones only are collected down and other unwanted will remain there in the net itself or there in the sieve itself, which is called sieving. So here is the method given out here. You can just have a look at the diagram or the picture in your book. Okay, just go through the book also side by side, because all those diagrams cannot be drawn there on the board. Please take help from the book also to understand the way what I'm teaching. All right, then we have magnetic separation. Then we have magnetic separation. Magnetic separation. Okay, so in this method we make use of magnetic property of the materials, magnetic properties of the components there in the mixture. Okay, so if the mixture contains magnetic substance and non-magnetic substance. For example, you see iron powder, the mixture of iron powder and sulfur, suppose is there. So you can separate it by using a magnet. So once you bring a magnet close to the mixture of this iron powder and sulfur, now this magnet attracts all the iron powders, whereas sulfur cannot be attracted. So that way you can separate it by using magnet. So this method is called magnetic separation. Number 5, we have sublimation. We have sublimation here. Next method is sublimation. What is sublimation? In fact, you got to know the process called sublimation. Actually, sublimation is a process in which the solid substances are heated and the solid substances are directly converted into the gas without going via the liquid. Okay, without being the liquid, the solid substances on heating directly change into the gas. That is called sublimation. So by the method called sublimation, many of the impure solid substances can be sublimed to pure form. Okay, when they are heated, so those solid substances can be directly changed into gas, and that gas is afterwards cooled down and collected in the pure form. For example, you see camphor. Now number 6, we have sedimentation and decantation. Sedimentation and decantation. So this sedimentation decantation is usually used in separating the insoluble solid substances from water or from liquid. Okay, for example, you see the water which is very muddy, so you need to suppose separate it. How you do it? Usually we allow this muddy water to remain there in the container for some hours or for some days. So automatically they separate it. So how you how you separate it, let me make you understand with the help of the diagrams here. Let us say, suppose this is the container here or the beaker. Alright, so here the muddy water is there. Suppose the water is muddy. Okay, muddy water, which means water is there and insoluble substances are there, so it is muddy. Now you need to separate it. So if you allow this muddy water in this container to remain for some days, okay, or 1 or 2 days, if you allow them to stay there itself for some days, what happened is that here in this beaker, okay, this insoluble substances will be settled down here. Okay, insoluble substances, let us say insoluble substances or mud, okay, or what? Mud will settle down here, and here you find water. Here you find water. Okay, you just allowed it to settle down there for some days, then it's settled. So up to this is your sedimentation. Is what? Sedimentation. Okay, it is your sedimentation. Then, so in this container itself you cannot use. So what you do is that you take another beaker here. Another beaker is here. Then you just pick it up gently and pour it here. Okay, and pour it here. You pour it here. You gently pour the water here. Okay, because here what is there? Here is mud. These insoluble substances are still here. Let us say mud is there, that is settled down here. without touching this, okay, without um, moving this, you can gently pour this water into this. This is your water. You can gently pour into this beaker. Okay, so that way you can separate it. So this method is now called decantation. It's called now decantation. Okay, sedimentation and decantation. Now 7 we have loading. So in loading is something like your sedimentation and decantation itself. But here what we do here is that suppose especially the water from river, okay, pond or lake contain fine particles, fine sand particles or some other particles which cannot be separated by the method called sedimentation decantation. So here what we do is that we add alum or something to the mixer so that the fine particles coming in contact with the alum become heavy and gets collected down there in the bottom of this container or whatever it is there. So that way we use the method called loading. Let me tell you once again here in this regard. Suppose let us say this is the container. Okay, so in this container you have collected water from river, pond, or some stream from some other sources where the some fine particles are there which cannot be separated. Let us say the water has been brought here. Okay, so if you add this substance called alum, okay, in Nepali it is called fitkeri. Okay, if you add this here in this mixer, then what happens that this alum comes in contact with the fine particles, and the fine particles now become heavier and gets settled down here. Okay, and get what? Settled down here. Now from here you can separate or you can collect the pure water from here. So this is called loading. Okay, the next we have filtration. We have now filtration. Okay, filtration. See, filtration is a method of separating solid particles from liquid. Okay, solid particles from liquid. Example, you see separating tea leaves from the tea solutions when the tea is made. Okay, when the tea is made, so that time what you do is that tea solution is poured through the filter. Okay, poured through the strainer or even the piece of cloth. So that time what happens that your tea leaves are retained there in the strainer itself. So that method is called filtration. Okay. Number 9 we have centrifugation. Centrifugation. Okay, centrifugation is a method of separating the fine suspended particles from a solid liquid mixture by rotating the mixture in a device called centrifuge. It's a kind of device where the mixer gets rotated inside. So once it rotates the inside, then the things get separated. Okay, so for example, there in washing machine also we squeeze out water from wet clothes by rotating it in the machine. Okay, then the machine we rotate it. So that time the water content of the wet clothes will be squeezed out. Okay, so that the things get dry the inside. And even we separate cream or butter from the milk by rotating the milk. Okay, by rotating the milk or by rotating the mixture. So that way we can separate the cream or even the butter. Okay, so that way we do it. And number 10 we have evaporation. Number 10 we have evaporation. Okay, so evaporation is the method of separating a solid from a liquid. Okay, separating a solid from a liquid by heating it. When you heat it, so that time the liquid portion, okay, liquid content of the mixer will be evaporated, and only the solid portion or the solid content or the solid component will remain there. So example, obtaining salt from seawater. Okay, as you all know that seawater is rich in salt. So there in large scale, what people do is, they pump seawater into the land, okay, and allow the water to get heated and evaporated. So over the course of time, the water get completely evaporated, and only the salt remains there as a crystal. So that way the salt can be separated from the seawater. So where we find the use of this method called evaporation. So this is how we conclude the chapter. There are some other also, but this 10 methods of separating mixer would be enough for our standard. All right, so this is how we conclude the chapter. Thank you very much.